Why is the middle-class Las Vegas fading? For decades, teachers, nurses, mechanics, and casino staff could buy a starter home and spend weekends on the Strip. That version is slipping away. In 2025, the median home sits around $445,000, while the median household earns about $75,000, a math gap that pushes ownership out of reach for the very people who keep the city running. Stick around as we count down the 10 biggest reasons the middle class is getting priced out of Las Vegas, and the surprising number one trade-off that explains why some families are leaving even after they make the numbers work. Number 10. The impossible housing math. The math is simple and devastating. Las Vegas median home price, $445,000. Median household income, $75,065. Monthly mortgage payment with today's rates, $2,870. Add property taxes, insurance, and HOA fees, and housing costs hit $3,200 monthly. That's 51% of gross income for the median family, double the recommended 25% housing to income ratio. Banks won't approve mortgages that consume over 43% of income. Most families qualify for loans around $350,000 maximum, but that buys nothing in today's Vegas market. Starter homes that sold for $150,000 in 2012 now list for $450,000. The entry-level market simply doesn't exist. First-time buyers face the harshest reality. They need $97,000 down payment for a typical home, nearly 1.5 times the median annual income. Saving that amount while paying $1,586 monthly rent becomes mathematically unsustainable for most working families. The homeownership pathway has been severed. I make $85,000 as a nurse supervisor, explains Monica Torres, a 34-year-old single mother. I'm priced out of buying anything decent. My rent keeps going up, but my salary doesn't. I'm stuck renting forever in a city where I save lives every day but can't afford to own a home. If the math doesn't add up, wait until the paycheck starts disappearing. Number 9. Economic foundation built on quicksand. Las Vegas built its middle class on an economic foundation that's crumbling. Tourism and hospitality still dominate employment, creating vulnerability that 2025's challenges expose ruthlessly. When visitor numbers drop 12% and hotel occupancy falls 7.6% in mid-2025, the ripple effects devastate families dependent on tips, overtime, and seasonal work. The service economy that powered Vegas growth operates on feast or famine cycles. Good months let families save for slow periods. Bad quarters force difficult choices between rent and groceries. Middle-class stability requires predictable income, exactly what Vegas's tourism economy can't provide consistently. Job market volatility hits hardest during economic slowdowns. Casinos cut shifts, restaurants reduce hours, entertainment venues cancel shows. The multiplier effect spreads quickly. Fewer tourists mean less spending, which means fewer jobs for locals who depend on visitor dollars. Unemployment spikes faster than in diversified economies. I made $75,000 last year between my casino job and tips, explains dealer Maria Rodriguez. This year I'm lucky to hit $55,000. My schedule got cut, the tips dried up, and there's no overtime. But my rent didn't go down, my car payment didn't change. The bills stay the same while the income disappears. Technology threatens traditional Vegas employment. Digital gaming, automated services, and AI customer service reduce human labor needs. Cashiers get replaced by kiosks. Reservation agents lose jobs to apps. The middle-skill jobs that supported middle-class lifestyles face automation pressure. Corporate consolidation concentrates power in fewer hands, reducing worker leverage. Major casino companies control multiple properties, standardizing wages and benefits at lower levels. Independent businesses get squeezed by rising rents and operating costs. The entrepreneurial opportunities that built small business wealth are disappearing. Real estate and construction, boom-bust industries that historically supported middle-class families, face headwinds from high interest rates and affordability concerns. Contractors and agents who earned good livings during hot markets now compete for fewer opportunities as activity slows. And just when hours get cut, a new kind of buyer shows up, with cash that rewrites the rules. Number 8. California money pricing out local wages. Local wages can't compete with California money flowing into Vegas's housing market. Tech workers and retirees fleeing high-tax states bring purchasing power that local families can't match. A San Francisco couple selling a modest home arrives with $800,000 cash, outbidding Vegas teachers who qualify for $300,000 mortgages. The economic displacement is systematic and unstoppable. Healthcare and education sectors, traditional middle-class employers, struggle with budget constraints and worker shortages. Nurses and teachers leave for better-paying states. Government positions offer stability, but wages that don't match housing costs. Professional opportunities concentrate in expensive neighborhoods where workers can't afford to live. The gig economy promises flexibility but delivers instability. Uber drivers, DoorDash workers, and freelance contractors lack benefits, predictable schedules, or career advancement paths. Multiple jobs become necessary to replace single full-time positions that once supported families. Union membership, which protected middle-class wages in hotels and casinos, faces erosion as companies resist collective bargaining and automate union positions. The worker protections that built Vegas's middle class weaken under competitive pressure and technological change. Economic diversification efforts create new industries, but often in high-skill, high-education sectors that don't help displace service workers. Tech companies hire engineers from out of state rather than training local residents. The economic transition leaves middle-class workers behind while attracting wealthy newcomers who accelerate gentrification. Financial planning becomes impossible when income fluctuates dramatically. Families can't budget for housing, education, or emergencies when paychecks vary by thousands monthly. The economic uncertainty that defines modern Vegas destroys the stability middle-class families need to build wealth and achieve security. So can we build our way out? Not when the only thing going up faster than cranes is profit margins. Number 7. Construction costs and supply shortage making entry. Level homes extinct. New construction offers no relief to families seeking affordable homes. Builders focus on luxury homes with higher profit margins. Affordable housing development lags years behind demand. Construction costs and land prices make entry-level homes unprofitable for developers. The supply shortage that created the housing crisis continues worsening. Rent increases compound the problem. Since 2016, rents jumped 40% while wages grew 15%. Families spend larger percentages of income on housing, leaving less for savings, emergencies, or down payments. The rental trap becomes permanent, as rising rents prevent wealth accumulation needed for home purchases. Energy-efficient upgrades become necessary but expensive investments. Window tinting, insulation improvements, and HVAC system updates require upfront costs many families can't afford. The infrastructure needed to survive Vegas summers demands capital investments beyond middle-class reach. Infrastructure strain shows up in rolling blackouts, water pressure drops, and emergency service delays. Power grids struggle with air conditioning demand, roads buckle and crack from heat expansion, emergency rooms fill with heat-related illnesses. The city's systems weren't designed for sustained extreme temperatures. Insurance costs reflect climate risks that homeowners bear. Property insurance rates increase as heat damage and storm risks grow. Flood insurance becomes mandatory in more areas as weather patterns intensify. The hidden costs of climate adaptation add thousands annually to family budgets. Drought restrictions limit landscaping options that affect property values and neighborhood appeal. Grass lawns get replaced with desert rock. Swimming pools face usage restrictions. Water-hungry plants face removal requirements. The aesthetic changes alter the suburban lifestyle families expected when they move to Vegas. A starving market attracts one kind of hunter, the kind that never blinks at list price. Number 6. Investor invasion converting neighborhoods to rental portfolios. The investor invasion accelerated the housing crisis beyond what natural market forces could create. Institutional buyers purchased 131,710 homes in Las Vegas since 2000, with 23% of current sales going to investors rather than families. Cash offers from Wall Street firms outbid local families consistently, then convert properties to rentals at premium rates. Neighborhoods that housed middle-class homeowners are becoming investment portfolios. Single-family homes get converted to short-term rentals, removing permanent housing stock. Corporate landlords optimize for profit, not community stability. The social fabric tears as homeownership, the foundation of middle-class wealth building, becomes exclusive to the wealthy. Our street used to be families who'd lived here for years, says longtime resident Patricia Williams. Now it's renters who move every year or two. Nobody knows each other. There's no community investment, no neighborhood pride. It feels like living in a hotel district where everyone's just passing through. Short-term rental conversions remove housing from the permanent rental pool while disrupting residential neighborhoods. Airbnb properties bring constant turnover, noise, and parking problems that drive away families seeking stable communities. Entire blocks transform from neighborhoods into tourist districts. The transient population creates educational instability as children change schools frequently. Parent involvement in school activities drops when families view their residence as temporary. Extracurricular programs suffer from lack of volunteer support. The educational community that supports children's development breaks down. Local businesses lose customer base as neighborhood turnover increases. Family restaurants and service providers depend on repeat customers and word-of-mouth recommendations. When residents become temporary tenants, business relationships don't develop. Commercial districts lose the local character that made neighborhoods distinctive. Corporate landlords treat properties as financial instruments rather than places where families build lives. Maintenance standards drop to minimum legal requirements. Property improvements focus on short-term rental appeal rather than family livability. The pride of ownership that maintained neighborhood quality gets replaced by corporate efficiency calculations. But the real bill isn't just the rent, it's the report card. Number 5. The classroom crisis. Clark County School District tells the story of middle-class flight in enrollment numbers and test scores. The 5th largest school system in America ranks second to last among the 50 largest metro areas for overall quality. That's not just bad. It's ranked near the bottom among large districts for families seeking decent education for their children. Class sizes averaging 35 to 40 students crush individual attention. Teachers burn out from impossible workloads and leave for neighboring states. Per-pupil funding ranks among the nation's lowest, creating resource shortages that show up in outdated textbooks, limited technology, and cut extracurricular programs. Safety concerns escalate as schools struggle with violence, weapons incidents, and disciplinary breakdowns. Parents receive emergency notifications about lockdowns, fights, and security threats. The learning environment deteriorates while families watch helplessly from overcrowded parent-teacher conferences and understaffed administrative offices. My daughter's high school has 3,200 students and 2 counselors, says parent Rebecca Chen, a working mother considering relocation. She's lost in the system. No one knows her name, her goals, or whether she's prepared for college. We're failing our kids by staying here. Geography creates school quality tracks closely with housing prices. Excellent schools exist in Summerlin and Henderson, areas where homes cost $600,000 to $800,000. Middle-class families get priced out of good school zones, then forced to choose between crushing mortgage debt or educational compromise. The choice becomes impossible. Private school costs add another financial blow. Quality education runs $15,000 to $25,000 annually per child. Families with 2 kids face $50,000 yearly tuition on top of housing costs. Combined with Vegas's high living expenses, private education pushes total family budgets beyond middle-class reach. Because in Vegas, school quality isn't a mystery, it's a map of home prices. Number 4. The zip code divide. Geographic segregation creates a school divide, where the best classrooms cluster in neighborhoods with homes priced between $600,000 and $800,000. Middle-class families get priced out of good school zones, then forced to choose between crushing mortgage debt or educational compromise. The choice becomes impossible when children's futures hang in the balance. Teachers themselves can't afford to live in the communities they serve. Starting salaries around $40,000 annually don't cover basic housing costs. Experienced educators leave for states where teacher pay supports homeownership and family stability. The talent drain accelerates educational decline. Academic performance data reveals the crisis scope. Reading and math proficiency rates lag national averages significantly. College preparation programs serve limited enrollment. Advanced placement offerings vary dramatically between wealthy and working-class areas. The achievement gaps reflect resource disparities that money alone can't fix. Parents track real estate in other states based on school district ratings. Arizona, Texas, and North Carolina offer better education at lower housing costs. The calculation becomes stark. Stay in Vegas with educational compromise, or relocate for family opportunity. Increasing numbers choose relocation. The teacher shortage creates instability that compounds learning challenges. Substitute teachers fill permanent positions. Class schedules change mid-semester. Continuity breaks down as staffing remains unpredictable. Students suffer from institutional chaos beyond their control. Middle-class families built Las Vegas by staying long-term, investing in communities, and raising children who became the next generation of workers and leaders. When those families leave for better schools elsewhere, the community foundation erodes. Brain drain follows family exodus as educated households seek educational opportunity. School performance becomes the final decision factor for families already stressed by housing costs, economic uncertainty, and quality of life concerns. Education represents hope for upward mobility. When that hope disappears, families follow it to places where children's futures aren't compromised by zip code and family income. Even if you win the zip code lottery, you still have to pay the heat tax. Number 3. Environmental costs that drain family budgets. Las Vegas faces an environmental reckoning that's making daily life unaffordable and unsustainable for middle-class families. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 115 degrees Fahrenheit, turning the city into an outdoor oven that forces residents indoors for months while driving electric bills beyond family budgets. The heat isn't just uncomfortable, it's financially devastating. Air conditioning bills for modest 3-bedroom homes hit $400 to $600 monthly during summer. That's $2,400 to $3,600 annually, just to keep indoor temperatures livable. For families already stretched by housing costs, these utility spikes force impossible choices between cooling and other necessities. We budget $500 monthly for electricity from June through September, explains construction worker David Santos, father of 3. That's car payment, money going to the power company. We set the thermostat at 78 degrees and still can't afford the bills. My kids spend summers at the library because it's cooler than our house. Vehicle maintenance costs multiply in extreme heat. Tires last half their rated lifespan. Batteries fail twice as frequently. Air conditioning systems require constant repair. Dashboard plastic cracks from ultraviolet exposure. What should be minor car maintenance becomes major expense categories that drain family budgets. The urban heat island effect makes lower-income neighborhoods significantly hotter than affluent areas with extensive landscaping and pools. Working-class families face higher temperatures and higher cooling costs while earning lower incomes. The climate burden falls hardest on those least able to afford it. Water scarcity creates long-term uncertainty that affects property values and quality of life. Lake Mead sits at its lowest levels since the 1930s. Colorado River allocations face federal cuts. Conservation mandates restrict landscaping options and increase costs for residents trying to maintain property values. Outdoor activities become impossible during peak heat months. Children can't play in yards, sports get canceled, community events move indoors or stop entirely. The active lifestyle that attracted families to Vegas disappears under temperatures that make outdoor exposure dangerous rather than enjoyable. And while the temperature climbs, something else is melting: community. Number 2, when neighborhoods become portfolios. Las Vegas is experiencing community instability as corporate investors and wealthy transplants displace the working families who built these neighborhoods. Community stability requires long-term residents who invest in schools, know their neighbors, and create the social bonds that sustain healthy neighborhoods. Crime rates correlate with residential instability as temporary residents have less investment in community safety. Neighborhood watch programs struggle when participants move frequently. Social enforcement of community standards weakens when people don't expect to stay long-term. The informal social controls that keep neighborhoods safe disappear. Social institutions like community centers, youth programs, and neighborhood associations lose volunteer support and financial backing. These organizations depend on stable residents who can commit time and resources over multiple years. Transient populations can't sustain the civic engagement that builds community infrastructure. Local political representation suffers as residential turnover makes organizing difficult. Voters who move frequently can't build relationships with local officials or advocate effectively for neighborhood needs. The political voice of communities weakens when residents lack long-term investment in local outcomes. Cultural changes follow demographic shifts as long-term residents get priced out and replaced by newcomers with different values and priorities. The neighborhood institutions, traditions, and social networks that created community identity get lost when original residents leave. Demographic shifts accelerate as middle-class families get replaced by either wealthy buyers or struggling renters. The economic diversity that created stable communities disappears. Neighborhoods become either luxury enclaves or rental districts, with little middle ground for working families. Real estate speculation treats neighborhoods as financial instruments, rather than places where families build lives. The commodification of housing destroys the social fabric that made these areas attractive in the first place. Once that community character disappears, even wealthy buyers move on to other markets. Which leaves the only question money can't answer: what's left of life here? Number 1. The quality of life trade, off that money can't fix. Health impacts from poor air quality during heat waves and dust storms create medical expenses and lost work time. Respiratory problems increase. Elderly residents and children face higher risks. The environmental health costs compound financial stress as families deal with more frequent medical needs. Climate change extends the heat season and increases peak temperatures annually. What used to be 3-month summers now stretch to 5 months of dangerous heat. The trend points toward worse conditions that will make Vegas increasingly unlivable for families without extensive financial resources. The gig economy and service sector volatility mean families can never truly plan for the future. Even those who make good money during peak seasons face months of reduced income. The boom-bust cycle that defines Vegas economics creates permanent uncertainty that makes building middle-class stability nearly impossible. For families who do manage to buy homes, the trade-offs become stark. Massive mortgage payments leave no room for emergencies, vacations, or children's college funds. Parents work multiple jobs just to cover housing costs, sacrificing family time for mortgage payments. The American dream becomes a nightmare of debt and stress. The psychological toll affects entire families. Children grow up knowing their parents stress constantly about money. Families postpone having more children because they can't afford larger spaces. Career dreams get abandoned for jobs that pay enough to cover Vegas's inflated living costs. Some families try to make it work by moving farther from the city center, but longer commutes eat up time and money. Gasoline costs, vehicle maintenance, and lost family time add hidden expenses that compound the financial pressure. The suburban dream becomes a daily grind of traffic and debt. The tipping point comes when families realize they're sacrificing their quality of life to afford a place that no longer offers the middle-class lifestyle they sought, working constantly to afford basic housing while their children attend failing schools and extreme heat keeps them indoors half the year. The trade-offs stop making sense. "We can make the numbers work on paper," explains one departing family. "But what's the point of owning a house if we're too stressed and broke to enjoy living in it? We want our kids to have a childhood, not grow up watching their parents struggle to afford basic housing." The number one reason middle-class families leave Vegas isn't that they can't afford it. It's that the cost of affording it destroys everything else they value about family life. Quality time, financial security, educational opportunity, and community stability all get sacrificed to meet housing costs. Las Vegas achieved the impossible. It priced out the people who made it possible. The middle-class families who filled the schools, staffed the casinos, and built the communities can no longer afford to live in the city they created. The math is brutal and getting worse. Median homes cost $445,000. Median income is $75,065. The $38,774 gap equals more than half a year's salary for families already spending 51% of earnings on housing. Only 19.8% of available homes are affordable to median-income families. Corporate investors accelerate the displacement by converting neighborhoods into rental portfolios. Wall Street firms outbid local families with cash offers. The homeownership that built middle-class wealth becomes exclusive to the wealthy. Community stability collapses as families get replaced by transient renters. The exodus accelerates as working families make rational decisions. Why struggle with $1,586 monthly rent when Phoenix offers homeownership? Why accept failing schools when Austin provides better education at lower cost? Vegas is sorting itself into two classes: wealthy owners and struggling renters. Climate realities add thousands annually through extreme electric bills and vehicle maintenance. Summer cooling expenses of $2,400 to $3,600 turn utility payments into mortgage-sized bills. The environmental costs of desert living have become luxuries only wealthy families can afford. For middle-class families still in Vegas, the question isn't whether they can afford to stay. It's whether they can afford to leave while they still have equity and options. The American dream didn't die in Las Vegas. It was priced out, degree by degree, until survival required wealth most families don't possess. Las Vegas isn't dying. It's evolving. For the right resident, it still offers sunshine, no state income tax, and non-stop entertainment. But for middle-class families balancing mortgages, schools, utilities, and stability, the trade-offs are getting tougher. If the trade-off feels rigged, what would make you stay? Or is it time to cash out?